Hey everybody, I'm JJ. You're watching Reality Survival, and today we are joined by Tag from Life Done Free. What's going on, Tag? Let me show everybody your YouTube page here real fast so they can go on over there and subscribe to your channel. That's what it looks like right there. It's got 582 videos filled with all kinds of information. I also want to mention real fast while we're letting some folks come on that Mira Safety has still got their gas masks on sale right now. Normally $339.95 and it's down to $199. If you use the discount code Reality Survival, you can save another 10% off top of that. So it gets it down to about 185-ish, somewhere in there. So you might check that out at mirasafety.com. And last but not least, I've got these knives in here from Utica, and I'll be showing you guys a look at these a little bit closer. This is their Made in the USA line that they have, and this one is on sale for about $98.74, down from like $125. And it's a really cool knife. So if you guys are looking for some gear and stuff like that, just a couple of recommendations real quick for you. So Tag, how is it going, my man? It's been probably like, what, a year or so since we've talked?
Yeah, probably about a year. Yeah, lots going on. The community's busy. I'm fighting my local county at every corner that I can to, try to keep freedom in. And then you got all the craziness of the world. And then how in the world do you prepare for that? And you don't know what you're reading is true or false. So how do you prepare for that? And it's an interesting time to be living in.
Now, just so folks that haven't seen your channel before, you have this channel called Life Done Free, and you've kind of created a minimalistic off-grid style place where you, if I remember right, I think you told me your total outgoing expenses were like a few hundred a month or something like that.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I used to be a financial executive, made lots of money, and my break even every month was almost $8,000.
Yeah,
and now I pay my bills for $800 a month, and so it's interesting to go through that. But it's not really that I live without anything. I have everything everybody else does. It's that I prepaid my power. I bought, went off grid. I prepaid my water by digging my own wells and my own rainwater systems, and so I don't really live minimalistically from a normal life perspective. I live minimalistically from a financial perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got all the creature comforts and everything that you need, but you just do it. You've broken out of the system, so to speak.
Close. I get asked the question all the time. I went off grid thinking that it was the ultimate, only to learn that off matrix was more important.
Explain that.
So, like off grid to me, and everyone has a different definition, but off grid to me means you're away from the public utilities, electricity, water, sewer. And that, believe it or not, was pretty easy to get to. Took money, right? And it just took time and those things. But then you get in to start thinking about actually exiting the system, and you learn things like, I'm never going to own a factory that's going to make oil filters. Right. I'm just not. I'm not going to own my own salt mine. I'm not going to. And so you try to continue that push to not have debt. Right, would be another great example to getting out of the matrix. There's lots of little things that go into that, trying to make it less dependence. My gardens. We have lots of gardens and food forests, but they were built in a way that if I had no machinery, we could manage it at 70. So it's just about kind of removing the stroke that the system has over us, not letting them dangle a carrot, not saying your social credit score, your whatever, trying to put myself in a position where they can't take anything from me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's the best. That's going to be the best way to go. Avoiding the matrix, I think, is going to get harder and harder and harder as we move forward. I'm often critical of Trump, and like you said before we started, I would 100 times rather have Trump than Biden, but I'm a little skeptical about what's going on with the stable coins and the crypto bros and the social credit systems and that kind of stuff. What are your kind of initial thoughts on all of that stuff?
Yeah, I've taken a lot of heat over my stance on this. I am not a crypto fan. I don't want anything to do with any of that. I don't invest in it. I won't invest in it. And for me, it really comes down to just a couple things, which is one, it's only good as long as they allow you to have the internet. So because they have to allow me to have the internet, again, I'm asking permission to access my money. So that's the first issue.
Yeah.
Right. The second issue for me is there is zero chance the federal government gives up the power to the purse. Zero. And when it becomes a threat to them, they will squash it like a bug. I can assure you, because without power to the purse, they're done.
Right.
It's game over. So they will do everything they can, knowing they will lose power without it. I just don't.
I feel like it's going even a step further than that, and that what they're trying to build is going to give them full control
100%.
over the economy. I
Yeah,
mean, more control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So because they're not going to give up power, they're going to own it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. More stroke.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Not less. A lot of people think that the CBDCs, Trump came in and he's like, "Hey, we're not going to do CBDCs. Those are bad. CBDC bad." But the stable coins are good. These are good. These are the best ones. You know what I mean? And now he's kind of heavily invested with the World Financial Liberty and all that, and in making money on this stuff. And what a lot of people don't understand is that stuff's all still programmable. It's all still tied to commercial codes. And if they don't want you buying ammo, they can shut off your account and keep you from buying ammo. If they don't want you buying food because you haven't turned in your assault weapons, they can shut off your account. You know what I mean? It's all programmable, and anything digital like that is, and so it might be a slower road to tyranny, but it's still a very wide road to tyranny.
I think the powers that be have figured out that mental slavery was easier than physical slavery. They've been doing it for many, many years, and they try to control every single thing. This is why I think as humans, what we expect, Americans specifically, what we need to be really working hard on is how to become less dependent, not more dependent. I'm not going to invest in anything that requires me to be more dependent on a system that is proven to be ineffective.
Yeah.
Right. The same people that are $37 trillion in debt are giving you a credit score.
Right.
Right. This is just complete
insanity.
insanity.
It is kind of lunacy, isn't it? Yeah. It's like I have zero debt, but yet you can't manage your annual budget. When's the last time you actually passed a budget?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no thanks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on getting free, which is a journey, boy, let me tell you. But I'm not playing any of those games.
I hear you. That's cool. Just out of curiosity, kind of the big news lately is the whole Charlie Kirk assassination and all that. Kind of a massive tragedy. What are your thoughts on all that? How that's kind of rolled out? And
yeah, I mean, first of all, it's completely tragic. I mean, in every form. And it hit me probably harder than 9/11 hit me. And I remember, maybe it's just because I was younger at 9/11, that maybe, I'm not really sure, but it's so sad to me that you can lose your life simply for speaking. And I didn't watch Charlie every day, but I watched him from time to time. And, it's everything that I ever seen. He was, really encouraging, open debate, and we didn't run from him. And so from that perspective, it was incredibly tragic. I don't know that I buy the narrative. I can give you, if you want to talk about it, all kinds of things that I think are weird about it.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, let's go ahead.
So if you talk about what's wrong with it, I mean, let's start with the caliber of weapon. I'm a big gun guy, right? I mean, I was a soldier. I have my own range. I love to shoot. And I tell you, I own 30-06 and many other ones. And I just go watch a video on the ballistics of what a 30-06 bullet does to soft tissue.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I shot a little doe one time with a 30-06, and I was probably only, I don't know, 60 yards or something like that. It wasn't quite as far, but still in the same general vicinity. And for the flight distance of the 06 and how far to go. And the exit wound on it was about the size of my fist. I could just about put my fist through there. And the surgeon's statements, who's come out and said that, it's a miracle and Charlie was Superman and, the bullet just went in and stopped. I'm like, man, there's a lot of problems with that. I just don't see how that's even possible. Even if it was a squib round, or it was like, a bad powder charge or something along those lines, it still wouldn't have hit the target if that's the case, because if he was aiming like it was a full power round, the round would have never impacted correctly.
Right.
So it just it doesn't make sense. And honestly, I rarely engage in deep conspiracy stuff, but this one's got my fucking antennas going crazy, honestly, because I don't understand how the Bureau can think that the public is this stupid. Like
They clearly
this,
do.
what's that?
They clearly do, though.
Well, they have to. They have to. I mean, my kind of I've started coming up with a working hypothesis, maybe on why somebody is doing this or something. Because I don't think Tyler was a shooter at all. I don't think there's any evidence that's been released to suggest that he had a rifle on that roof. And not even a little bit. I mean, when you see him running across there, it's obvious there's nothing in his legs, and he jumps down and all that kind of thing. That backpack is way too small to hold the stock of an aught six and and the barrel and everything without that sticking out. And they could have shown him in the shooting, in the shooting position, making the shot. There's no reason from a chain of custody perspective that they couldn't release that before the trial. Like as long as they have the chain of custody for the evidence, you can still release it and at least help everybody understand, oh, we did at least see him laying there with the rifle and shoot. That would bring the temperature of this whole thing way, way down. Now we'd still have to figure out the ballistics, and there'd still be, all the issues with the text messages and all the other crazy nonsense. But at least they would, trying to be transparent. It just seems like they're just seeing what we'll believe. Like, let's just see how stupid we can get.
Yeah, you're really going to take a shot like that and then stop and disassemble your rifle, and jump down and run and put it in the woods and wrap it in a. I mean, none of it makes any sense. That's
and the worst part about the backpack thing, or the reassembly thing, like to me, is okay. Let's just say he did disassemble it. Like that's an amazing presence of mind. That is that's insane that he did. But let's say he took the screwdriver, he disassembled it, he put it in his back, and then he left the screwdriver, right? Which is what the story is, according to Kash Patel. And then he runs over, he jumps off the building. The rifle's in his backpack, we'll say, because it was definitely not in his leg. He's not carrying it. It's not in a towel. And then he goes over and he feels like he needs to stash it. Now, my question is twofold. One, if it's in your backpack, everybody on campus has a backpack. Why do you need to stash it?
Yep.
You could walk right past a police officer and they wouldn't even know you had anything.
Yep.
So that part of the story doesn't make any sense. And then two, he left the screwdriver on the roof. How did he reassemble it? Did he just use his fingernail? I mean, maybe. But what the hell's the reason for reassembling it? It doesn't make any sense. If you were stashing it, it's easier to hide if it's broken down. It's going to fit in the towel easier if it's broken down. Like there's so many issues with this.
Yeah. Well, then that particular rifle, which I'm familiar with, isn't meant to be field stripped.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like an AR-15 or an AM-16 or something, that comes apart super quick, super easy, and
yeah, it's a pretty. Even if you're just breaking the action away in the barrel and action away from the stock, I mean, it's not a really difficult thing. I think it's probably only like 3 screws or something along those lines. But you've still got you got the internal magazine to mess with and the removing the bolt and all that kind of stuff. And when you look at the timestamps on the video and when he's running, it suggests that he did all this in less than a minute or so.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's just silly,
Yeah.
I tend to think I was starting to wonder anyway. A real strange occurrence happened when Bill Ackman offered the reward money for anybody who turned Tyler in or whatever. And then it happens to be his dad who turns him in, and he's going to get this $1 million reward money. Now it's awful coincidental that he's now going to have plenty of money for his defense, right? That Bill Ackman, close ties to Israel and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a big Israel skeptic guy, although I have opined that it seems as though if anybody did benefit the most from this, they probably did. Not saying that there's evidence that they're involved, because I don't think we've seen that. But it's awful weird that they're now paying for this guy's defense. And when you look at how it's rolled out, it almost makes sense to me that they're trying to set it up so that he gets off when he goes to trial. So on the 29th, here in like 5 days, he's going to go in and enter his plea. I predict he will say not guilty, because any defense attorney in the world could absolutely get him off based on the evidence that's been released anyway. Now, we don't know what they haven't released. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But there's certainly enough already just to create reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that might be part of the objective, maybe a twofold objective. One, to kill Charlie. Two, get him off at trial to cause outrage on the right, because they want nothing more, in my opinion, than for the right to become violent. They're chomping at the bit for that to happen, I think. And I hope nobody does. You know what I'm saying? I hope nobody takes the bait. But I'm concerned that that is sort of the two-pronged objective of this whole thing, if there is one. Maybe it's just pure coincidence, whatever. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, so I think I'm just starting with the shooter. And I can't believe and this is a reference to who shot him. I can't believe I'm going to quote Hillary Clinton, but I am. But at this point, what does it matter? And I think what I mean by that is, sure, we clearly have a battle between good and evil. And I don't even necessarily think it's a battle between right and left so much as it's good and evil. And whether it was our school system and universities that were set to program this young man to commit this crime, or whether it was a staged crime from some other deep state issue, or whether it was Israel, or whether we have to recognize the fact that he was manufactured if he did it. And if he didn't, he's a patsy. And either way, no matter how you look at that, I think, in my opinion, it's oh shit.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. I think if they can get him off, it will then, explode it again. Charlie Kirk's wife did a podcast on the Turning Point USA, had 1 billion views.
Yeah.
1 billion. What does that tell you about who's watching and the divide? I think it's amazing that we've got leaders on both sides calling for violence. I think that people are pissed. I know a lot of really good-hearted people that say, I'm not playing no more. I am not recognizing the he, she, it, and that. I'm not doing it. I'm calling them out on it. I'm not playing the game anymore. I'm done with this woke shit. I mean, I know good people who just wanted to grow corn and be left alone.
Right.
Who now are going, no more. This is it.
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous, JJ. I think it's super, super dangerous. And I don't know how you heal, nor do I know how do we negotiate with someone who wants us dead.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is either. I don't really know. I think that to give Trump some credit, I think that designating Antifa as a terrorist organization is probably a good thing. For the most part, I have a little bit of concerns when a Democratic AOC president, comes in and decides to designate, the Oath Keepers and the 3 percenters. That leads down a really slippery, nasty slope that I don't know if we want to go down. But Antifa's especially violent. They've done a lot of really, really shitty things to law enforcement officers and all that kind of stuff. And so I think there's justification in their case, but I'm a little worried that it establishes somewhat of a bad precedent, because if this tit for tat goes down the road, the chilling effect of keeping people from being involved in communities is the thing that's going to hit hardest. Nobody will want to be a part of anything down, 10 years down the road after, 15 organizations on the left and 15 organizations on the right have been designated terrorists. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's just afraid and they stay in their house and they don't want to get out and engage and, be a part of anything because they don't want to stick their head up. And that's not a great place to live either.
Yeah, I would tell you that I'm probably opposed to them putting Antifa as a terrorist organization, and for some of the reasons you described. But, also, I don't know that it's a federal issue, right? Any powers not specifically given to the federal government should lie in the hands of the state.
Fair point right there, my friend.
Yeah, and so I think that really matters too, because again, to your point, what's going to happen is, what a great way to take away people's civil liberties. Mm-hmm. Right. And you're going to get in there and you're going to, start deciding who gets their civil rights and who doesn't get their civil rights based on some designation from the federal government. So I would tell you that I'm blanketly opposed to them getting that designation from the federal government. Now, if a local state government says no more of this shit, and
Sure,
gonna,
and they could also be just prosecuted for all the violence and the stupid shit that they do. It doesn't have to be a terrorism designation. All they got to do is charge these people. They're not even charging them.
right, the laws already exist. Why do we need to make
Yeah.
new rules that infringe upon the rights of peaceful people like you and me, JJ?
Yeah. I mean, in the summer of 2020, I heard that there were 4,000 Antifa members arrested, and I think only 2 were charged with anything. So arresting them doesn't do any good if you're not going to get charged in the justice system. So
Yeah.
yeah. The only perspective and what I thought about on the federal designation part is the funding aspect of it and allowing the prosecutors to go after those people who fund it. But again, it's all with the caveat that this is probably going to end up getting used to, not to our benefit in the future.
And that's a fair argument because you got to look back at the past. They've done it in the past, right? I mean, there was a time I really believed that the Patriot Act was a great thing.
Right. And it's proven to be utterly disastrous. And the one thing actually that concerns me the most about the Patriot Act is the section that allows banks to report information proactively to the government if they see suspicious stuff, and because it used to be that you had to still provide legal process to the bank and then they would provide you the records and all that. Now, if the bank knows that there's something suspicious going on, then they can just proactively take the records and transfer them straight on over. And what happened as a result of this is on January 6th, the telecom companies did that too. And that worked. They went through the court process and that was all fine. And now they're going to move that up to social media. And I think it was Pam Bondi. I think it was Pam Bondi, who was just talking about this recently, who was saying that they need to work and have a public-private partnership with these social media companies so that they can get this information faster. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
I mean,
when the government comes out and says free speech is fine, and this is Pam Bondi, but hate speech is not.
Yeah.
Wait. Who determines what's hate speech and what's not hate speech? Oh, you guys do. Oh, that's right. So my constitutional rights can be legislated.
Yeah.
Or your arbitrary opinion.
And it changes every 4 years. Right. So there's a moving target, right? Like it's a continual moving target. Even if by some grace of God, somebody could figure out, okay, here's a broad set of things that are, criminal to say, which is stupid. The whole concept of that is stupid. It's not going to stay the same. They're always going to be changing it. It's always going to be moving. And it's just something that we can't let happen.
Yeah. JJ, there is a document out there that exists that outlines all of this. That's in my opinion, perfect. Right. And it says shall not be infringed.
Right.
Shall not be abridged.
Yep.
This is not complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Say whatever, stick and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt you. Right. I mean, you heard this growing up as a child.
Yeah. That's funny. You don't hear that much anymore.
You don't, do you?
No. I think that's intentional too. Yeah. I think that's intentional. Yes. I remember when teachers used to say that to us.
Yes.
It was so common. But no, you're exactly right. The speech that you have to protect is the speech that you hate the most. You have to protect it the most. And it's amazing to me that somebody who has a law degree could utter those words on public camera, on public TV, and with a straight face, let alone.
Yeah, and I would warn everybody, just because the agenda fits your narrative this time, right? Yeah. You'll be on the other side next time. And we have to defend our right to free speech, whether or not we like what someone has to say. I mean, now I can understand if you're saying something, that could be considered as a threat. But even in that, until you take action, how do you become guilty of a crime you have yet to commit?
100%. And what my concern is on that very topic, and I've been talking about this quite a lot on videos lately, is that Palantir and what they're doing in conjunction with law enforcement agencies and stuff like that all over, they're already working on predictive crime modeling.
Yep.
That's a fact. This is not a joke. It's not like something that's going to be in the future in Minority Report. They're already working it. And predictive crime modeling, that's basically saying this guy is fitting a pattern XYZ here, ABC here. This AI thinks that you should open a case on this guy based on that information. May not have committed any crime, may not have done anything, but collating thousands of social media posts over a period of 3 or 4 years, it's able to pull together a pattern in what it thinks might be indicative of criminal behavior. Even though there's hundreds of thousands of those posts in between there, that's the way that the data gets organized, and it's scary.
Yeah,
It's
well, I think you should add to that because AI is smarter than us, they're above approach.
right. Yeah,
Question it either, because how can you question something that's so much smarter than you?
right. Yeah,
It's a bad
no,
road. Bad road.
it is. It is. It's a terrible road to go down. Speaking of terrible roads to go down, what do you think about the whole Russia, Europe, Ukraine, situation? What's your thoughts on that right now? Because I thought we were going to be done with this. It was going to be done in a day.
Yeah, I actually think it's only beginning. I think that this is such a crazy topic. I spend a lot of time thinking about these kinds of things, but what does it all have in common, right? I mean, I think even Charlie Kirk. What does Charlie Kirk have in common with Russia, and what does the dumbing down of our students and our kids have to do with Russia, and what does I think there's now I'm not talking about an Oz behind the curtain, because I don't believe in that. I don't think there's some wizard behind a curtain causing a bunch of problems. I think there's a systematic issue, but I think Russia's hell bent, and I kind of understand it from their perspective. And I'm certainly not a pro-Russia guy, and I'm a pro-American. But
Yeah.
if you think about it, the Americans said, "Hey, after World War II, we're not going to go any further than this line." And then we went further, and they said, "Okay, we're sorry, we won't go any further than this line." We went further, and then, "Okay, we're not going to go any further." Go Google U.S. military bases around Russia. There's nowhere left for them to go.
Right.
Go Google U.S. military bases around China. There's nowhere to retreat to, and it's easy
Yeah.
for us to say because we're an ocean away.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's going to come a time where you back somebody in a corner, they're going to fight, and I kind of get it.
Yeah. No, I tend to think, I was talking about this in another video recently too, is that, both, when you look at the demographics of Western Europe and Russia, they're both dying faster than they're breeding.
Yes.
Right. They're in a demographic collapse, both of them.
Yep.
And I tend to think that this is really an existential struggle for both of them, because they're trying to establish dominance on one side or the other, because they're completely uncertain about how all of their economies are going to handle. Like, we just don't have a model for what happens in this situation where your demographic pyramid is completely inverted. We don't have any idea of how it's going to be dealt with, and I think they're all scrambling. I think that's the thing that makes sense to me is that they're trying to, establish their dominance the best that they can before shit really goes sideways and they got no control at all. If they're able to, what's that?
I said when Americans are having 1.6 children, that's not sustainable. And when a large percentage of the Muslim world is having 6, that's absolutely sustainable. And I'm an economics background, but I don't take economics to do that math.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that in probably less than 10 years, the UK will no longer even be a Caucasian-ish country. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, Anglo-Saxon, I guess you could say, or whatever. Like it'll be predominantly Muslim. I mean,
it won't even be England, bud, because what it will be is Sharia law.
Yeah, yeah.
And what it will be is some third world shithole. And I think it's dangerous. There's another thought that I've always thought about through all this. I'm going to get way in the weeds, but sorry. There's another a lot. What if, and it would kind of line up if you look at some of the things that go on. What if the deep state is much bigger than the United States, which I think it is, right? It's probably a global fight for world power, and that you've got people like Putin, Trump, and Xi Jinping all saying, okay, we've got to find a way to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe the Russian collusion thing didn't happen the way they said it did, but maybe that's actually going on. Maybe there's a fight behind the scenes for sovereignty for nations and things like that against the World Economic Forum, whatever it is, the deep state.
Yeah.
And there's something bigger going on, because I think you got to look at all of it as, what do they all of this have in common, right? I mean, and
It's all about control.
It's all about control. Yeah. And so who's fighting the control? Now, I know that Trump's going to have to do certain things like backing the Ukraine and some of these things on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what actually happens back behind the scenes. And I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I tend to think that there are two factions in the United States when it comes to global power. I think that there's one faction, which is the Trump faction, who is trying to continue the Bretton Woods model in the United States being the unilateral power,
Yep.
where our country calls the shots and everybody falls in line, or you end up getting regime changed. And then the other side of that story is the left, who is way more comfortable with regional hegemons, like the World Economic Forum and all that kind of stuff. And they want to see China do their thing. They want to see, the European, do their thing. And they're comfortable with those regional types of power distribution. And I think that's where the real battle is, personally. And it's a little scary to me, because I really would just love to live in a fantasy land where there's actual national sovereignty and we don't get involved in everybody else's business.
Yeah.
That's to me the best case scenario as a kind of a diehard constitutional libertarian. I don't want to get involved in all this, but at the same time, I don't really want China to rule the world, and I really don't want Russia to rule the world, and I don't want Europe to rule the world. You know what I mean? So then I'm left with going, okay,
yeah,
Trump, I guess, keep going, because what other choice do we have? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so hard. I mean,
it's really hard. It's a real tough problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give Trump, some credit in this. Again, I'm not a big, Trump fan in this, but I mean, part of me thinks that this whole gig is really about, a one world government and a one world currency and bringing everything together and, and all this. And I'd rather have China, Russia, India, America, Canada, whatever, all rule than to have some central vision, rule it all. And it becomes more and more concerning to me all the time. I mean, I watch Europe really, really close, because someone I really respect once told me, you want to see what's coming to America, watch what's happening in Europe 5 years before.
Yep.
And, the stuff they're rolling out with the, IDs and, social credit scores, and, you're putting you in jail because you're putting a tweet out.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? How many? It's in the thousands, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Number of people, is it 7 or 10,000 people that have been arrested for social media posts in Europe or England? I think in England, maybe. It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah. So they're silencing them by putting them in jail. You had 9 German politicians all get assassinated from the conservative side. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I mean, I think there's some links to all of this, JJ.
Yeah. No, I think you're definitely right. I mean, when you look at the stuff, I think the tariff realignment this is all part of the plan. The stablecoin backbone and the instant money transfers between countries and everything, FedNow and all that kind of stuff, that's all a part of it as well. And then recently Trump basically starts chastising the UN. I think we're going to see heavy pressure on the UN to change, probably. You know what I mean? Like, to get a little bit more control. I mean, we already have quite a bit of control in the UN. But I think Trump is looking to shake things up there as well. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch one way or another.
I think it's in interesting times, and I'd rather it happen under my watch now than some of my grandkids someday.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But I mean, I think there's a lot of things we can be doing that make it better. But I think at the end of the day, there's no longer a political solution to our problems.
I think you're probably right. Unfortunately, I like to think that we really need to be involved in local government, get those guys trained up to go to state government, get those guys trained to go to federal government. And then hopefully, if we started them young enough, they'll be able to resist the temptation to become a part of the swamp, You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I know that's a 15-year goal that is hard, and nobody really wants to take the time to do it, unfortunately.
JJ, it's such a bigger. I mean, I would even go to so much bigger than that. It'll never be fixed in 15 years.
Yeah.
Never. I'll give you some examples. The NAEP, the National Report Card on students, now says that 25% of high school seniors are less than proficient in math. Okay.
Jeez.
47% of kids today have some type of chronic illness. For the first time in American history, obesity outnumbers underweight in kids. We have a
Jeez.
systematic problem. And I just used health right there. You want to talk about consumerism? You want to talk about education? You want whatever it is, right? This is such a big systematic problem that I don't know how you ever fix it.
I will say that I agree with what you're saying right now. I will say that I've been extremely impressed with RFK.
Mhm.
I was not ever a huge fan of him prior to being exposed to him as much as we have now, but I think that he's doing a lot of really good work and trying to establish, some semblance of common sense, in the healthcare system in America. I think he's got a long way to go. But I mean, you're looking at the numbers. They were talking about this the other day. It's like, what is it now? 1 in 30 or something, or 1 in 60 kids have autism now. I mean, if you carry the trend out another 10 years, it's like every kid's going to have autism.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons for that, detection and, widening the spectrum of what's considered autism and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's a real big issue.
There's some studies out there that suggest it's 1 in 10. And in 2016, our numbers was 1 in 168. And ironically, in 2025, the country of Nigeria had an autism rate of 1 in 1,000.
And how is that?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's systematic, but I think you got to even go beyond before that. We need to stop tearing down the nuclear family.
Right.
We have to understand that the nuclear family, and for anybody I piss off, I don't care. At the end of the day, the nuclear family is the only sustainable model.
Right.
Look up the definition of sustainable.
Yep.
We got to stop taking away what makes a woman so amazing and so special. We got to stop demasculating men. Right. It starts with all of those things way back in the beginning. So you have 100 years of culture degradation to fix.
Yeah, no, that's right. And how do you do that? I don't know. I mean, you would have to have a complete and utter transformation of the educational process and start, kind of like, Moses in the wilderness. You got to let one generation die off and create the whole new generation to, train them up the right way or whatever. But,
yeah, I mean, we got to stop putting kids in a place where their only role is to learn how to be a better worker.
Right.
We teach our kids to memorize. We don't teach them to learn or how to learn.
Right. Critical thinking. Yeah.
Cultural shift. I mean, Pfizer's been around. I don't know if you know, it's 175 years is yet to cure anything. 175 years. Our medical system is created to create customers, not cures. I mean, but I can go on and on and on. Like the background you come from, the judicial system.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you take these people who sell some drugs, whatever they are. We put them in a long prison sentence. Now they've got this record. Now they get out and can't find a job, which forces them back in there instead of taking the money and teaching them how to weld.
Yeah.
We have to pick
and they won't even give them an ID when they come out half the time. You know what I mean? Like they just drugs. Yeah. They create a criminal class.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's once you've paid your debt to society, your rights should be returned to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You live to your end of the deal. I believe in rule of law, JJ, so don't misunderstand me. But what I'm saying is these systems, does the judicial system work for you? The legislative system, the executive branch? I mean, any of them, I don't know any of them that are working.
No, they're all extremely broken. And I think it's really only momentum that is keeping the system floating as good as it is. You know what I mean? It's just, we're such a big ship that it's just going to take a long time to turn in any direction or to stop at all, And I think that I've said this for years that, the real SHTF that we'll experience is just a long, slow slide where it's just step after step after step over a period of years where it just gets a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. And then at some point we're going to look back and go, how the F did we get here?
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I don't believe that Mad Max is coming, but I absolutely believe in some version of the Great Depression 2.0,
Sure.
type of situation goes. And again, there's lots you can do to prepare for those things, but I think it's a long, slow burn. I think it'll take 100 years to fix this.
Let's talk about that a little bit. The what can you do? Let's talk about some strategies for individuals to use to make their self and their system, their situation better.
Yeah. I think the first thing we have to recognize is that 90% of it's between our ears. I would start right there. We have to get rid of the victim mentalities. We have to start taking accountability and responsibility. And everything that happens to me is my fault, whether it's good or whether it's bad. You have to start owning it because nobody's coming to my aid. And not only do I got to be okay with that, I got to prefer that. So you got to get your mind right, kind of set in that path. We've got to redefine success. What is it? What does it mean to be a success as a man in society today? What does success mean to be a woman in society today? What does success in itself mean? I think we got to go through this mental process to create this fundamental shift. And I don't think we can do anything till we get there. Once we get there, the next step would be build community. Find a bunch of people to go through this with. Because at the end of the day, and your viewers don't know this about me, but I live 100% off grid. We produce a lot of our own stuff, and it's hard, man. The ability to actually it's hard, man. I get up every day, first thing. I work all day long, every single day. There's no Sunday. What the hell is the difference between a Sunday and a Wednesday?
Right.
In my world.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to be able to embrace that suck and that workload. And it's going to be much easier when there's like-minded people around you to do it. Yeah. Also, you share some of that risk and some of that burden around us. So I think I would start there. After that, it becomes minutia a lot. I mean, I think if you can accomplish those first two, you're going to be a long ways. But you can start looking at how do I break the cycle of energy dependence? Well, go off grid.
Right.
How do I stop my dependence on the system? Get out of debt. Quit asking for permission. You want to know who you ask permission from? Open your checkbook. That's all I got to do.
Yeah.
There they are.
Yeah.
And we got to stop doing those things, and we got to start living beneath our means, living in a place where we can actually make it work. But mind frame and yoke up would be my 1 and 2.
Very cool. I think that's all great ideas. With thinking about the Gen Z folks that are coming up and the crisis that they're having with housing and affordability and all those kinds of things, with them specifically, aside from those two, is there anything that you can throw out that way to the young folks?
Yeah, I think again, we're talking about mindset here. We got to stop thinking that our kids have to leave the home at 18. We got to stop thinking that it's not okay for them to stick around and be in the family business, which furthermore, let's start a whole bunch of new entrepreneurs because that will fix, a whole bunch of things. The housing market's going to crash. Prices are going to come down at some point because they cannot sustain ultimately. Yeah. Here's the other side. Let's stop thinking about only ourselves in this. How do we as the older generation, I'm Gen X, who, by the way, I blame a lot of these problems on boomers and Gen X. Boomers were selfish and they sent us out to come home after the lights were on. So, I blame us for this, but, I would absolutely, for the right couple, would build a tiny house on my property and let them learn along the way, and eventually they can have it, and passing some of that stuff down and start thinking about generations beyond us. Again, we got to get out of the victim mentality and start thinking big picture. And I think if we do that, we're going to be all right. I'm willing to do it, but the problem is I need 1 million people willing to do it.
Sure. Yeah. That would be, I would love to see, we were talking about this just the other night. I would love to see a world where we started to create communities that produce their own power, that had their own, sustainable systems and all those kinds of things, on a smaller scale, that didn't have to rely on the government and all that kind of stuff. I know that's not big picture, the answer, but what a beautiful thing to see those things kind of start to filter up and all that kind of stuff.
JJ, I don't think you give yourself enough credit right there. I think it is big picture, because I'm going to tell you that lifestyle, your kids get raised in a manner that they're taking care of themselves.
Right.
When my daughter, who my kids are grown, but when my daughter was 10 years old, she was cutting heads off chickens.
Right.
Right. I mean, and it was fine. And when she was done, she'd wash her hands and put nail polish on. I mean, so I think it is big picture. We have to start thinking community-based, something more local. Stop putting so much attention in the federal side, because again, I don't think politically we can get out of this. I think we have to get out of this morally. I think we have to get out of this right here locally, and we have to make some commitments that are hard, that make us uncomfortable, because we've been programmed only to think about ourselves. We got to redefine success. As I mentioned earlier, success to me is the relationship I have with my wife. Everything else is secondary.
Right.
And really get back to those kind of things. I think it is big picture. If we can change this next generation and they can continue the fight on, the generation after that might very well save us.
I think a lot of the Gen Z folks are starting to wake up to this.
Yep.
That's the good news about it is I think that there is kind of a revival, from the perspective of more of the traditional, wants and needs and all that kind of stuff, traditional lifestyle and stuff. It's still an uphill battle, I think, but there seem to be a lot of undercurrents of those, returning to that kind of stuff. So I
Now,
think that,
I would warn everybody though, community's hard, but I think at the end of the day, you got to pick your heart.
yeah,
Do I want to be in debt? Do I want to be, a slave to the system, which you are? I promise you,
right.
you are, and it's going to piss somebody off, but I don't, whatever. So I think we just got to make that fundamental shift, and we've got to decide that the suck is on us, and it's not on the next generation. It's on us, and it's on us right here.
What are your thoughts on local government? I know you mentioned before the show that you've got some struggles coming on with local government and fighting them and all that kind of stuff. You want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Do you mind if I start with the victories?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, what people hear is struggle. I don't want the struggle, but they got to win. See the other side.
Yeah.
So for me, it started in our community. We went into a county commissioners meeting, and they said you're not allowed to film in here. And so we called the local sheriff. And the sheriff came down, pulled the commissioners out of the meeting, took them in a little room, informed them that the First Amendment guarantees our right to free press, that we were born with press credentials. And for all of you people out there to know, you were born with press credentials. Our founders gave you press credentials. And so he informed the commissioners they could not legally do that. They came back out pissed and said, okay, fine, come in. That's where it began.
Nice.
Earlier, late last year, they came out with a new resolution that said that they were going to change the zoning in our county from 20 to 3, meaning that instead of like out here, you have to have 20 acres. You can't build unless you have 20 acres. They wanted to make it to 3. Well, us who live rural like this, we don't want that.
No. Yeah.
So we all loaded up in our trucks and this, and we went down and we threw a big old fit and had an educated, respectful fit. So I didn't yell and call anybody names. And we did that, and they backed off, and they said, okay, we don't want this fight. Fast forward to April this year, because nobody was watching, they put out a resolution that stated that the tax man, a county employee, or a contractor employed by the county could enter your property against your consent if what they believed was you had a tax violation, a permit violation, or a sewer violation, or they had an anonymous tip that said that. So what would stop a police officer or anybody else who's pissed off at you to say, I got a tip. Yeah. So this was a clear violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. So we loaded back up. We put billboards up. We contacted the Justice Center. We went and got on it. And after about a 2-week fight, blast in social media and doing all of these things, all of a sudden they come out and say, you know what? We're just going to rescind the resolution. It's just not worth it.
Nice.
So fast forward, here we are today. We've been informed that our county wants to bring in a 12,000 acre solar farm. And so you guys know that's tens of millions of panels. And in fact, if you put solar panel to solar panel over that space and then stretched it out in a line, it would go to Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Holy cow.
It's a huge amount of solar panels.
Yeah.
And the county is rallying right now. Nobody wants it. And tomorrow we've got a meeting. We're going to go get it as hard as we can. I've been studying and studying and studying to understand the regulations, understand the rules, understand what goes on. They don't want it to go to a vote. But I think the moral of the story is the only change we can make is local. Yep. Because we can't federally, we can't really on a state level very much either, unless a bunch of the counties, could go and get together. But again, I'll probably make somebody mad. But if you're sitting back with your hands waiting for somebody else to do it, you're the problem. We have to get up and go do it. We have to be active in our school boards. We have to be active in our local county commissions. And here's the thing, guys, I have a super healthy relationship with my county commissioners. They don't hate me, but they know without a doubt, with 100% certainty, that if they violate my rights, I will be standing tall. I will use my money, my resources. I'll mortgage my home. I will do whatever it takes to stand on this wall, because if I don't, my kids are going to be forced.
There you go. And, and it's so important at the local level because they actually have the highest degree of control over you.
Yes.
They're the most tyrannical. They have really it's hard. Like you gotta keep them in check, man. But I have seen also in the little town that I lived up in New Hampshire where public opposition makes a difference. Yeah. When people show up and take the time to stand there and express their concerns and stuff, it does usually make a difference.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I can't think of one time where when we had 25, 30, 40 people, that showed up and were pissed about something that they didn't end up getting a really serious consideration,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's those meetings are boring, and it sucks getting out, on your Wednesday night when you just want to kick back after getting from work, and you don't want to go sit in some uncomfortable ass lawn chair for 2 hours listening to a bunch of crap that you don't care about. But man, it really does make a difference.
When you got to do it, the excuse of I'm busy is just not a very good excuse. When someone tells me, "Hey, I'm too busy for that," I always tell them it's not a busy issue; it's a priority issue. It's not a big enough priority to you because I'm busy. I own several companies. I'm busy. I got a wife. I got a family. I got a homestead. I got a community. I got all of these things, and I make it to them because I made it a priority. So if you don't go, it's not because you're too busy. It's because it wasn't important to you.
Yeah, I think you're spot on in that regard there for sure. Your companies. Let's talk about Grid Down. How's Grid Down going?
Yeah, good. Grid Down was born out of a weird idea. As you know, I have an intentional neighborhood here, and we thought that if we could eliminate some of the middlemen out of the process, that we could help everybody get off grid, which is actually where it was born. And we did a little bit of that, and it's kind of started to take off. And so now we're selling whole house solar systems all over the country, pretty much every state. And so it's good. It doesn't take a lot of my time, which is nice. It's a day and a half or 2 day a week job instead of a 40-hour a week job. So it's nice. And what I like about them so much, they're just simple.
Yeah.
Comparatively, right?
Yeah.
We one of our goals when we set out was solar can be kind of complicated. I had a big Schneider system, and for those who don't know what Schneider is the Cadillac, right? This is beautiful equipment, but man, it took me longer to get all of the inverters to speak to each other than it did to install the system. It was a process.
Yeah.
And so we really went after at the manufacturer about how do we make it easy. And there's a lot of little examples to that. The battery cables only go one way. You can't put them in wrong. They only go one place, and just little stuff like that just makes it easier. They're pre-commissioned, which means the factory opens them up, brings them up, makes sure they're working, puts them back in the crate, and ships them to you. And we're continually trying to push those boundaries. But it's a great little company.
And you guys do kind of a pre-configuration for your desired needs beforehand, right? So you kind of get the idea of what you're going to use it for and set it up for that.
Yeah, so the system will go grid tied, no grid tied, or hybrid. Gotcha. And so really what they're doing is they're sending out a survey, the factory is, and what they're asking is, do you have a generator? Right? How will you use the system? What do you want it to do? And then so they preset those configurations into the system before it's sent out.
Very cool.
It just makes it easier. And for people in my life, man, time is everything.
And these are also EMP hardened.
Yep.
Right?
All of them. Yep, all of them use EMP shields, and it comes with, depending upon the system, between 5 and 35 shields, depending again upon the size of the system.
That's just because it's got to hit all the individual circuits and everything, right? That's why they have multiple ones and everything. Yeah.
And the other thing that I think I like too is you will not find another company that warranties the entire thing for 25 years.
That's pretty good.
That's the and from
the other thing is good is if you use the discount code Reality Survival, you save 7%.
Well, not only you save 7%, you get to support a fighter who's in the battle. And that to me is worth way more. But I'm going to tell you something. I will spend 20% more to make sure my local business that's in the fight and got a head in the right place. I will do it every day of the week because I vote with my dollar, and I'm not going to be the one on the sidelines saying, well, but the tomato was too expensive.
Right. Absolutely.
So the discount is great, but do it for that. More importantly, do it to support JJ and his work.
There you go. Appreciate that. Well, sir, what have we failed to talk about? Is there anything else we should cover? I mean, I know folks need to go over to Life Done Free at Life Done Free on YouTube.
Yeah. I guess I could tell you I'm speaking in Camden, Tennessee on October 4th and 5th at the Self-Reliance Festival. I'm then going to just outside of Dallas, Texas, to speak at Crunchy Mama Farms, their tribe event. Down there, which is coming up November 14th and 15th. So if you're in those areas, I'd love to meet you. Come up, hang out. I'm easy to talk to. Just come say hey.
Yeah.
We can have a conversation. And I think
what's that Camden event, October 4th and 5th? What is it?
Self-Reliance Festival. Okay. It's at Birdsong Marina in Camden, Tennessee.
Okay.
We have a lot of speakers like Brooke Whipple from the show Alone will be there, for example. Cool. There's like 30 speakers. I mean, there's a bunch of them there, but I'm going to speak, and I'm going to speak on how the system's lying to us. will be my topic. This will be the 4th time I've spoken at that event.
Very cool.
So we'll go down there. So that'll be super, super neat. And I'll tell you, I've met, I think, 4 community members who live in our intentional neighborhood. I met at Self-Reliance Festival at a speaking event.
Awesome. That's
so, yes, it's super profitable for me, again, if you redefine success.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Very cool, my friend. Well, it was really good catching up with you. We need to do it more often.
Yeah, let's do. But I'm game anytime. Keep fighting the good fight, JJ. You know, I know there's a lot of people who respect your levelness. That's what I respect the most. You know,
I try to keep it real if I can. I mean,
not all over the place. So I watch them all the time. I can't tell you I get to all of them, but I get to a lot of them. Just keep fighting the fight. And if I can help you in any way, please speak out.
All right, brother. Take care, my friend.
See you guys. Hold the line. Don't give an inch.